Hi, everybody. I'm on a little early because I wanted to make sure I was set up. If you happen to be here on Dishin with the dietitian, somebody already is. I'm loving this. Then give me the thumbs up and let me know you're here or just say hello. I'm starting. Oh, thank you for who's ever on. I'm so happy to do this with you. Just so you know that tonight is a result of somebody asking me. Now we can start. How are you, Boo? Love having you. And as always, you are right there. And that's how I know I'm good to go. When Just so you know, whenever you're not here, I worry like crazy just because I want to make sure that everything's okay. So I'm so glad you're here. And just so you know, as is the case with many of the live streams, today is a result of somebody asking me specifically to do this. So I'm going to try to clear up any confusion. Hi, JMK and Janice. Yay. How are you? I'm so glad you guys are on. And although I always start by trying to make pretend I can see without my glasses, you know, guys, that I cannot. So I'm putting my glasses on so we can have, I can answer all your questions about salt. People that I have been meeting with have been concerned about salt and they wanted to have an update and a refresher and ways and to know if salt matters. So it's 7 o'clock. Welcome everybody to tonight's live stream, which is on salt. Let me ask you, are you all ever wondering, am I eating too much, not enough salt? How are ways I can control how much I eat? How are ways that I might want to reduce my intake of salt? Or are you wondering, why in the heck does it matter at all? Tonight's live stream will answer all of those questions and more. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Debbie Kravitsky. I've been a registered dietitian for over 30 years. Currently, I'm a clinical dietitian at Mass General Hospital's Cardiovascular Disease Prevention Center. I also have a private practice that I offer through Zoom. If this interests you, you can contact me at Debbie, Debbii, Kravitsky, KRIV as in Victor, ITSKY at gmail.com, and we can arrange for a time for us to meet through Zoom so you don't have to go anywhere and you can show me some of the things that you're eating, and you will get an individually tailored plan. I have appeared in national publications such as Harper's Bazaar and Family Circle magazine. I consult with many corporations. I've also appeared in television. It gives me my greatest joy and privilege to be able to provide you with current, accurate, evidence-based nutrition information to help you to reach your dietary goals. Together, we will shop, we will cook, and I will navigate the way. So let's get started. Salt, it's certainly a weighty issue. And why do you need salt? What does it do? Well, let me show you and let me tell you why it matters. It matters. You need to have salt. Salt is a mineral, and it's involved in many functions in the body, including helping keep the healthy function of your nerves and your muscles, and it helps keep your body's fluids in balance. And this balance is very, very delicate. Too much salt, that salt acts like a sponge. It holds that fluid, and that fluid retention can result in an increase in blood pressure, which is a major risk factor for heart attack and also stroke and heart failure. So do you need to watch it? Oh, I would say you do. And it's interesting that as we live longer, we're not going to go untouched. Everybody's going to get something. And the American Heart Association estimates that over the course of our lifetime, 90% of Americans will develop high blood pressure. So this applies to just about everybody. Having high blood pressure is thought to be a silent killer because the symptoms aren't always obvious, but it is one of the major risk factors for heart disease, which is the number one killer in this. It is the number one killer worldwide. So it makes a big difference in terms of what would happen if we lowered our intake of salt. it makes also we see the difference that it's recommended that the average person, a person without heart disease, a person without diabetes or kidney disease, a person who is not salt sensitive, doesn't have hypertension, can keep their intake of salt to 2,300 milligrams. Now, I know you know me, and you know I'm a visual learner. Let me know if you're a visual learner, because having not been raised in the metric system, to tell me to keep my intake of salt to 2,300 milligrams, that doesn't do one gosh darn thing to me. So let me make it easier, and let me give you the visual and make it more real for you. A level teaspoon of salt is 2,300 milligrams. So those without hypertension, without heart disease, without diabetes, without kidney disease, they can keep their intake of salt at 1 teaspoon a day. That's all you need, coming from the foods that you're eating, any salt you might have added. So you can see it is so easy to exceed that limit. Now, if we could reduce the amount of salt that we eat to that 23 milligrams worldwide, then we could reduce the cases of a high blood pressure by over 11 million a year. So does it make a difference? Darn tootin' it does. And if we could go even lower in this country, if we could reduce our intake to 1,500 milligrams, which is a little under 3/4 of a teaspoon. 3/4 of a teaspoon is approximately 1,725 milligrams. So if we could go a little under 3/4 of a teaspoon, we'd get to about 1,500 milligrams a day. And if we could do that, we could reduce the deaths from cardiovascular disease to about 500,000 and to nearly 1.2 million over the next 10 years. So I'd say reducing our intake, great idea, does make a difference. Now, some people argue that the science just doesn't support that, but I'm going to argue that I think that it does. And whether you're salt sensitive or not, lowering your blood pressure is a great idea, and there are many ways to do it. How do you know you're at risk for high blood pressure? Take a look and see if you have any of these risk factors. Are you overweight? Are you diabetic? Do you have any heart issues? Do you have any kidney or renal issues? These are people that will be at increased risk for high blood pressure. But just know it is a silent killer. You could have high blood pressure and not realize it at all. Are you under constant stress? It can raise your blood pressure. So always go to your doctor, get your blood pressure checked. If you're using the apparatus that you buy to check your blood pressure at home, I suggest that you take this piece of equipment to your doctor and get it synced up to make sure that it is great. And it is a great topic, Steinler Consulting. Thank you so much. It's great to have you aboard. I wish I could see you guys, but I feel your presence and I love it. So make sure that you know that. Now, one way that you can help to lower your blood pressure is and to reduce your intake of salt is to look to the foods in your diet that might be contributing a disproportionately high amount of salt. And some of them might surprise you. One of the number one sources, well, the place that we get the most salt is when we go out to eat and when we look at foods that are highly processed or used a lot of salt for processing. So your mantra always is read it before you eat it. We always check the label. And as your need for salt is a U-shaped curve, too little is no good and too much is no good. So we stay, for those with hypertension, we stay at 1,500 milligrams, a little under 3/4 of a teaspoon. Low sodium, by definition, is 140 milligrams in a serving. Take a look at some of the things you're eating, things in your fridge or your pantry right now. Because your need is a U-shaped curve, too little is no good and too much is no good. I think, frankly, you can go 140 to 200 milligrams in a serving and you would still make that 1,500 mark and for sure the 2,300 mark if you don't have any hypertension at all. So take a look at what you're eating. Sometimes you're surprised in a horrific way and sometimes you're surprised in a good way. So let's take a look. I pulled some things from my pantry to show you things that I love to show people the salt, because some of the places that you might be surprised where salt comes from are things like breads, are for sure soups. Take a look at at soups, at tacos. Think of Mexican food. Think of when you go out to eat for Mexican food, canned beans, cheese, high in salt. It would be, think about Chinese food for sure. Each order in a Chinese restaurant is about a day's worth of salt, because think about soy sauce. Even low sodium soy sauce is going to be way, way, way too high. So I have substitutes for you that will help you to stay on track but not have to substitute flavor. But let's take a look at this soy sauce, because I have some right here. Let me just take a look, and I'm going to show you different ones. So think about your Chinese food. So here's soy sauce, and you're going to find that a tablespoon of soy sauce will provide you with 960 milligrams of salt. Is that not beyond? If I'm telling you to stay at 1500 for hypertension and heart disease, and to reduce intake to 1500 milligrams, at 960 for a tablespoon, you're about half your intake, and you know you're not stopping at a tablespoon, and you know this is usually mixed with other things. So people say to me, well, what about tamari? Tamari's so much better. No, it isn't. 960. Read the label. It gives you all the information you need. So I don't want you to be misguided by information that you think versus what you actually know. And just to show you why Chinese food is so high, oyster sauce, commonly used in Chinese food, a tablespoon of this oyster sauce, 830. So if I combine it with the soy sauce at 960, I'm at 1800. I've already exceeded my daily intake, and I only had two little things, not even the food that has some in it already. So it's stunning to read. Now, people say to me, what about those aminos, those coconut aminos? Well, this will give you 300 milligrams for this coconut aminos. Some people like the Bragg's, but take a look, read the label, check it, 140 to 200. That's where you need to stay. Here is a Thai sauce. So Asian food, whether it's Thai or Chinese, it's loaded. And Thai Tom, how are you? If a soup says low sodium, so this says reduced sodium. Good point, Tom. So it can't say low sodium unless it is, which by definition is 140. Reduced sodium means they took the amount and they reduced it by about a third. But if you start at the moon like Progressive Soups, then reduced sodium, that's not going to get you there. It has to say low sodium. My favorite prepared low sodium soup is at Trader Joe's. They're low sodium tomato and tomato soup, and they have a squash soup. They have they're low sodium soups that come in cartons. That's the one I go for. But reduced sodium by Progresso just isn't going to get you there. And Tom, if you have it in front of you, let me know the sodium level. Now, this is a Thai sauce. And this one, again, all this is 480 milligrams for a tablespoon. So these are really, really high. If you love the taste of Asian, I would get the Thai ginger marinade at Whole Foods. I love it. Let me know if any of you are using this. I love it. It will provide you with 180 milligrams, much, much less than the 960. It gives you great flavor. And don't be fooled. Low sodium isn't low flavor. It's just low sodium. And the more you have salt, the more you're going to want salt. Your taste for salt regulates. And the less you have salt, the less you're going to want it. So start to enjoy the flavor of the food. I love to use vinegars to give you that sharp tang. I love different mustards. Read the label. Many people are afraid of mustard. They think it's probably high in salt. But this is Trader Joe's. I love garlic, as many of you know. This is their aioli garlic mustard. And when I take a look at the salt, remember your mantra, read it before you eat it. This is only 50 milligrams of salt. This is a good deal. People also love hot sauce. Let me know if you love hot sauce. But sometimes it can make a difference. So this is the sriracha chili, and it's not bad at 190. But if I went for this one over here, which my family likes even better, this one is the sriracha hot chili sauce, and this one has 75. So I can go from 190 to 75, and and they actually like the taste of this one better. So why not? So take the time to compare products and to read these labels, because it's stunning sometimes how much salt there is in food. This is a sesame soy ginger vinaigrette that I see at Whole Foods, 230 milligrams. Not terrible, but to be honest with you, the Thai ginger would do the same thing for me, and I can go down to 180. So take a look, because anywhere you can reduce your intake of salt, you definitely want to. Not low enough. Wow, Tom, that's unbelievable. The Progresso reduced fat sodium. See, reduced fat is not low enough. It can't say low sodium. That's why it says reduced. Goes down to 470. Not a good deal at all. It's about a third of your intake for the day, and you just had soup. Really. That's why you read it before you. Thanks so much, Tom, for sharing. Now, there are some things that people are afraid to use that actually might be fine. So we always check the label. Remember, read it before you eat it. Worcestershire sauce. A lot of people are afraid of Worcestershire sauce, but it's 65 milligrams of sodium. I'm not afraid of it. What about you? I think it's a good deal, and used great if you're going to make a stir fry or whatever you're making. People are afraid of ketchup. Ketchup will give you 180. So just use a ton. You can get a low sodium ketchup, but if not, just 180. It fits. It's fine. People are often looking for different ways to season their foods, and sometimes you're surprised in a good way. Now, capers, which I always think are very high in salt, this is at 140 milligrams for a teaspoon. So if you see a dish or you happen to go to somebody's house, I wouldn't put capers in my dish without needing to. But if I happen to go to somebody's house and they happen to make a dish with capers in it, then just don't eat so much. A teaspoon will give you 140 milligrams. That's teeny, so that's low sodium. So just don't eat tons, but I wouldn't sweat. I wouldn't be so afraid of having a few, and because you'll be fine. You'll be good to go. I do love the Mediterranean herb marinade. I put this on halibut, and it's 180 milligrams. Excuse me, it's 80, just 80 milligrams of sodium, very low sodium. I do also love at Whole Foods the fish taco sauce at 135 milligrams. Great ways to flavor food without having to sacrifice salt. Are your favorite popcorn seasonings? No, my favorite popcorn seasonings are not high in salt. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, Steinler Consulting. So this is the cheddar that I've showed you before. I get it now online. All of the Sur La Table stores in the Boston area are now closed, I'm sorry to say, but you can get this stuff online. 65 milligrams of salt, that's pretty low. And a friend of mine who is very dear to me stopped by, and she gave me these seasonings. This is the kettle corn, and it is put out by Urban Accents. You get these online, and this is very low in salt. So let me show you that this is the sodium. Let me just show you. Hold on. You'll be so proud. 40 milligrams. That's really, really low. And they have many other herbs and spices that my friend adores at Urban Accents. You can get urbanaccents.com, and they're wonderful. She gets some seasonings, a Kodiak seasoning that she puts on salmon, and she gets another one, a Kodiak salmon, it's a rub that she puts on her salmon, and she also gets a mesa chipotle powder that she also uses, which is good. So it's fun to experiment with different spices and seasonings. I also love, this is packaged by Stonewall Kitchen, and it's Legal Seafoods Cajun seafood seasoning, packed full of flavor, loaded with, but not with salt. So this will give you 70 milligrams of salt. That's pretty low. I use this on tuna. So if I take a tuna steak, I'll just rub this Cajun seafood seasoning by Legal Seafoods, and then I will grill it or put it in a grill pan, 2 minutes on each side, and my tuna is done. But loaded with flavor. Trader Joe's, I have not tried this yet, but it is a spicy Italian with fennel in it. Inside is pepper, salt, dried garlic, paprika, rosemary, fennel, crushed red pepper, cumin powder, and cumin seeds, and very low in sodium at 75 milligrams. So just ways to use seasonings, but not have to be high in salt. I have to say that one of the things that I miss when I think about salt is pickles. I don't know about any of you. If you love pickles, I love pickles. And for me, the trick with pickles is like with everything, it's all about texture. And for pickles have to be crisp. They have to have crunch. So these are, I've talked about them before. I'm not sure I've ever showed them, but these are the Grillo's pickles. You can get these in every market, not Trader Joe's, but every other market. They're sold in the produce section in these plastic tubs. And these are their bread and butter pickles, but also their dill pickles. Both of them are low in sodium. So when I take a look at these, the sodium is, for 3 pickles, 3 pieces, is 180 milligrams. That's a good deal. And it gives you pickles. You can put them in a sandwich. You can have it on your own. Let me know if you like pickles. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Hi, Christina. How are you? So delish. I know, isn't it? And who would think that so delish and low sodium are going hand in hand? But it's true. And let me know if this has happened to any of you. You've been going low sodium maybe for a little while. Then you get served a dish and it's loaded with salt. What does that do for you? What happens to you? Let me know. I can tell you because I talk to my husband and I call him the salt whisperer. I think he can taste it in everything. Now, many people say, you know something? It's okay because I'm using Himalayan salt or you can't even eat it, Tom. I know. That's what I was hoping you'd say. It does. It makes that dish really inedible, does it not? You just can't eat it anymore. You just can't. And that's a good sign, Tom. It means you're in your zone. You're in a great place because you just don't need it. And people say to me, you know what? It's Himalayan or it's gray salt or sea salt. So I'm good. I'm good to go. Really? Are you good to go? Let's take a look. You need the facts. It's not by what you think. It's by what you know. This in an eighth of a teaspoon. That's nothing. 380 milligrams. So if you go times 8, any of you guys good in math? What's 8 times 380? It's at least 24, maybe 2,600 milligrams. What have I done? I've gone way past my day's allotment, hypertension or not. Are you doing it?
What is it again?
So if I take 380 times 8,
3,040.
3,040. You know my sidekick, Mr. Wilson here, aka my daughter. So 3,040 milligrams of salt. That's 2 days worth if you have hypertension or heart disease or diabetes or kidney disease, and you just had just salt. You haven't even eaten one bit of food. So sea salt, pink salt, Himalayan salt, no better at all. It's salt is salt, and I don't care if it's garlic salt, sea salt, kosher salt. That's not blessed. Salt is salt, and it doesn't matter the form. It's salt. It's salt. People are afraid of ketchup. So let me just say, read it before you eat it. For a tablespoon of this ketchup, it's 180. That's not bad at all. Just watch your portions and you're going to be totally fine. And watch what else you're having through the course of a day. So if you love things like everything but the bagel sesame seasoning, I love it, but I go low because it gets to be a little too salty for me. It is low sodium. It's 80 milligrams of sodium, but you can't, I don't know. I can taste the salt when I use too much of this. So I use it, but I use it sparingly. And you'll know, you start to taste the salt, just like Tom said. And that's what happens because sometimes you get served a dip like this, 680 milligrams. And if you had only two tablespoons, that's like, really? Why not make your own and season it with herbs and spices that aren't high in salt? Potassium salt. So potassium salt, potassium salt, I'm not sure, but I think it's just the potassium. Can you Google potassium salt for me? But what I do want you to do with Janice, this was a great lead in. This is just where I'm going. Look how we're connected, I think. Is that what I do want you to do to try to counterbalance if you should have a dish that happens to be too high in salt, or if you're just trying to lower your blood pressure, I want you to reduce your intake of salt, but increase your intake of potassium.
So there's 1 milligram potassium. There's a tablespoon of salt.
No, what is potassium salt?
What is it?
Yeah, there is a potassium salt, according to Janice, and I'm sure there is. If you can just tell me what it is. But I'm going to show you foods high in potassium, because these are foods that I want you to include so that you can lower your blood pressure and reduce your stroke risk. And one of the best new additions to the food label is the addition of potassium and putting it there. And new salt, great question. Okay, one second.
It's called no salt. And it's
Okay. So, Christina, no salt, thank you, is the same as potassium salt. So I don't want you to use this. What they've done is they replace the sodium with potassium. Now, potassium affects the rate of your heart, so you can get too much. So if you're a heart patient, I want you to consult with your cardiologist to make sure it's okay for you to use the no salt, which is a potassium supplement. And what's interesting about that, what you might not have ever had to think about, is that you can go to any store, a CVS or your local pharmacy, and you can buy an over-the-counter any vitamin, just about any mineral, calcium, for example. But what you can't get is potassium, because of the impact. That's a prescription mineral to use, because potassium affects the rate of your heart. So to have no salt, I wouldn't without consent from your doctor, because it can impact the rate of your heart. But I know that you won't get too much if you include foods rich in potassium. So as always, I want you to do it with food. And you don't use much salt, but I have a friend here who likes salt. Thanks, Janice. Aren't you nice? You're looking out for your friend. I love that. So foods high in potassium: sweet potato, fabulous. You're trying to tomato paste, tomatoes, a low sodium tomato sauce would be a great source of potassium. Oranges, yogurt is terrific. White beans, kidney beans, get the low sodium version or get them fresh. Cantaloupe, greens, they're all great sources of potassium. White beans are terrific. White baked potato is terrific. People are afraid of a white baked potato. Great source of potassium. 530 milligrams of potassium. Yeah, but the amount, Christina, thanks for looking. I'm glad you must have it there. So that's really helpful. And take a look at what the serving size is for that and how much you think that you would use. Halibut will give you a moderate source of potassium. Soybeans, tuna, lima beans, winter squash, good sources of potassium. Spinach, bananas, sources of potassium. So I would definitely include some salmon. I would include a yogurt. I would include some spinach. Great ways for you to increase. Have some cantaloupe for dessert. Great sources for potassium. That's one of the benefits of the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet. 1/6 of a teaspoon. And you're not going to eat. Thanks, Christina. This is awesome. You're not going to have 1/6 of a teaspoon. So if you have even a half a teaspoon, then I'm going to go to 1,500 milligrams of potassium, and that's high. Would you, the upper limit of potassium, just so you know, is 4,700 milligrams. So you still won't be there, but you didn't get any. You would have gotten more from food. So just so you know, there is an accepted upper limit, and that would be 4,700. Can you just Google for potassium, the upper limit for potassium? Make sure that this is current. Thanks. So I'm having my daughter, my helper here, she's doing great, and she's checking for me, just to make sure. But food, I would definitely up your intake of potassium. Do it through foods, because I don't think you'll override it. Yeah.
If you're a healthy adult,
yeah.
Aim between 3,500 and 4,700 milligrams
Right.
daily.
So 3,500 to 47?
Mhm.
Yeah. So 3,500 to 4,700 milligrams of potassium is exactly where we want to go. It's just hard to go too much because of the impact on your heart. And most people, frankly, are just not even eating enough. If you had a sweet potato, it gives you 700 milligrams of potassium. So you can see if you had 700 milligrams of potassium from a sweet potato, and then you took the no salt, which would maybe give you an extra 1,000 or over, you're at 1,700, give or take. And if you kept going, it just would be so easy to just go over. Even if you had a whole teaspoon of this no salt, you'd be at 3,000, and a little over 3,000. Can you do 530 times 6?
Sure.
Thanks.
Give me a second with the calculator. Hold on, man.
You're doing a calculator.
530 times 6?
Yes, please.
3,180.
You're already at 3,180, and you don't want to go more than about 34 to 47. So that's why it's just too easy to go over using the new salt. I much prefer you get it from food. So it's not that it doesn't have a place, but get clearance. Better to be safe than not. Sometimes you're surprised where potassium comes from. If I asked, when I teach, and I always ask people, where do you think that you get the most potassium? 8 out of 10 say bananas, but it really isn't. It's a sweet potato or a white potato, which is pretty stunning. So people are often afraid of potatoes. They're particularly a white baked potato, but great source for potassium. Eat the skin. It gives you more fiber, and bake it, and then just watch what you put on it, and you'll be good to go. I made you'll remember that one of the live streams on comfort food is that I made baked white and sweet potato fries that I did in the oven, that I just baked, and they're yummy, yummy, yummy. So let me know if this has been helpful for you. As always, I don't like to keep you too long, but and let me know if you have any other questions about salt. Other questions that might have come to mind. Hi, Tom. An off-topic question. I love them. My wife is asking me about a snack of baby carrots, love, and supremely spicy hummus. It should be delicious. Tell me where and when. It sounds yummy. Tell her to always read it before you eat it. Just make sure the hummus is fine. Check the salt in the hummus. It's usually fine. The fat is usually fine. It's yummy. Totally great. Just watch the calories. Hummus is, think about it, oil, chickpea. So it can be calorie dense, but great snack. Love it. Love it. I usually get a roasted red pepper and and the garlic, of course, but tell her absolutely enjoy. And the baby carrots, great vehicle for the hummus, because it gives you that fiber, and fiber is your friend. Oh, my pleasure, Tom. Anytime. And anytime any of you have great questions, they can be off topic. I'm so happy to answer them. And it's just why I'm here. Just so you know, if you're thinking about Caesar salad, I have anchovy paste here. For 2 teaspoons of the anchovy paste, it's 990 milligrams. That's why these dressings and the anchovy paste or anchovies are really high in salt. So watch it. Sometimes you're surprised in a good way. Sometimes you were hoping that it wouldn't say what it did, and it did. But use these seasonings. Enjoy the flavor of the food itself, because we do want to make sure we keep blood pressure under control. It isn't referred to as the silent killer, and it is a linear relationship. As salt intake goes up, so does blood pressure, and therefore so does stroke risk. So to counteract that, we include foods high in potassium. We do know the benefits of the nutrients that come along with that potassium in the foods, including the fiber. And that is stunning. And as most of you know, I love this to to keep up with the research on the microbiome. And some studies, there will be much more to come, are suggesting that salt negatively impacts the microbiome. So another pathway for us to gain some more understandings of the impact of salt. All right. If you have any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you're all doing well. And if there's anything for sure that you want me to do a live stream on, I am happy to do so. I so enjoy being with you. And I want you guys to eat well and stay safe. All right, everybody, then have a good night. I hope this was helpful. I love that you joined me. And I look forward to connecting with you all the time. So thank you all, and your input has been phenomenal. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Janice, Tom, Boo. Awesome. Awesome. And Steinler Consulting. So love to have you both. It's great. Really great. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Stay safe, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Stuart Sohn. Oh, thank you so much. That is great. So, I never know who's here unless you write in. So thank you so much. It means the world to me to have you here, and I'm happy to help. So let me know if you come across any fun new ideas, recipes, or you have any more questions or things you want me to do a live stream on. I am happy to join you all. Have a great night. Stay safe. Enjoy. It's going to get warmer. And so I know we have a rough week this week, but today was gorgeous. And over the weekend should be a nice weekend. So enjoy, everybody. Have fun. How'd I do?